Back pain is a complicated problem. It's kind of like a Rubik's Cube. And it goes without saying that there are multiple factors that contribute to both its onset and its perpetuation. But one thing that the vast majority of people that come into my clinic complaining about chronic back pain have in common is that they all tend to have really stiff, tight hips. And when a person's hips don't move and function the way that they're supposed to, it automatically lets me know that their lower back is being exposed to way more motion, load, and force than it was ever designed to handle on a consistent basis. And so even if this isn't the outright cause of their problem, it's certainly not helping their situation. And that's why one of the best things that you can do for a person who's suffering with a problem like this is to improve their hip mobility. And in this video, I'm going to show you 3 ways to do exactly that. Internal and external rotation at the hip are 2 of the movements that suffer the most in anybody that has chronic pain through this region of their body. And we're going to be addressing both of those movements at the same time with exercise number 1, which is a bent knee pendulum. To perform this exercise, you should start off standing next to a wall so that you can reach out for support if you need it. Alternatively, you can use a sturdy chair and hang on to the back. Once you've got that, you're going to stand on one foot and bring your opposite leg to 90 degrees at the knee and 90 degrees at the hip. So starting position looks just like this. Now from that starting position, what you're going to do is pivot at the hip joint and bring your foot across the midline of your body and then swing the foot to the outside of your body, just going back and forth. External rotation at the hip, internal rotation at the hip. That represents 1 repetition. You should go only as far as you can comfortably go in both directions. Now the movement itself is a free swinging motion with just a little bit of momentum. And the image that I always have in my head is that of a rod running from my kneecap through my thigh and coming out the backside of my body, and I'm pivoting around that rod. So ideally, your kneecap stays pointing straight ahead the entire time. And what we're looking for here is 15 to 20 repetitions. Switch over to the opposite side and repeat. Exercise number 2 is a high lunge, which is going to help with deep hip flexion and deep extension while simultaneously helping to open up your groin. The only thing that you're going to need for this is a sturdy chair that's not going to go anywhere when you step up on it, and add a little bit of weight. Once you've got that, you're going to stand facing your chair so that the seat of the chair is pointing directly at you. You should position yourself somewhere between 1.5 and 3.5 feet away from the chair, depending on your height, how long your legs are, and how flexible you are. So another way of thinking about this is the closer you stand to your chair, the easier the exercise is, and the further you stand away from the chair, the more challenging or the deeper the stretch you're going to get. So keeping that in mind, you're going to step up with one leg, placing the entire foot on the seat of that chair as you lean forward, bringing your weight towards that front leg while maintaining a normal curve in your back. If you need to, you can press with your hands into your thigh here and help maintain that upright posture. Hold for a second or 2, switch over to the other side, and repeat. And what you're going to feel as you go into this is a deep stretch on the back of the leg that is up on the chair, and you're going to feel a deep stretch at the exact same time on the front of the thigh of the leg that is down on the floor. What you're looking for here is 10 to 15 repetitions on each side, going as deep as you can comfortably go while maintaining that normal curve in your spine. One thing that I want to point out here is that it's perfectly normal and necessary for that rear heel to come off the ground to get into the position that you need to be in at the hips. So 10 to 15 reps, switching back and forth, maintaining that curve the whole time. The third and final exercise is hip circles. Now don't let the simplicity of this movement fool you. Hip circles are a great way to improve hip flexion, hip extension, and especially hip adduction, where your leg is coming across your body, and abduction, where your leg is coming away from your body. The great thing is that with this movement, you get to target all of those motions at the exact same time. To perform hip circles, you should take a stance where your feet are positioned hip width apart and pointing straight out in front of you. Then you're going to place your hands right on top of your hips and begin slowly moving your hips in a clockwise circular motion. Now, my favorite thing about hip circles is that you are in complete control over how intense this motion is for you. If you want to make it very gentle, you make very small circles where your hips stay pretty much positioned over the midpoint of your body. And if you want to make it more intense and get more out of the motion, then you begin pushing your hips further and further away from that midline. Essentially, you're trying to draw a bigger circle with your hips. What we're looking for here is 15 to 20 rotations in the clockwise direction, and then just reverse it and begin going the opposite direction. What I would encourage you to pay attention to as you're going through your hip circles is going slowly through the motion and finding if you feel any specific positions in that circular orbit that are harder for you. So move through it the entire way, and you might find that, hey, when I get out to this side, oh, I feel a little bit of tension around this hip or on the inside of this hip. And that will allow you to really slowly kind of work through that range and progressively open it up with each repetition. After you finish the 15 to 20, go in the opposite direction, and again, feel out that orbit and make sure that it's nice and smooth at every point. One other option that you have for upping the intensity of this movement is to take a wider stance. So here you can see my feet are positioned about 3 feet apart, and from this position you're going to make those exact same circles at the hip. Nice and slow, moving through that orbit, making sure that it's smooth at every point along the way. What you're going to find in this position is that you get a lot more of a targeted stretch at the inner part of your hip in your groin area. Now, this is an area where people with back pain tend to be extremely tight. So what I recommend for everybody is to start off with that closer stance, do 15 to 20 in a range that is comfortable for you, where you're feeling just a little bit of stretch, then reverse it and go the opposite direction. As that tissue warms up and you improve your mobility over the days and weeks to come, you can begin moving into a slightly wider stance. So there you have it, 3 super simple exercises for improving hip mobility that can be knocked out in just a few minutes a day. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more like it, or if there's another pain, posture, or rehab related topic that you'd like to see a video about, let me know about it in the comments section down below. Beyond that, I just want to thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button and the subscribe button before you head out of here, and I'll see you next time.